It is Friday, August 21st, 2020, and this is your Three Gorges Dam update. We have 4 pieces of information to cover today, including thousands evacuated as floods threaten a massive dam and a treasured Buddha in China. Also, courtesy of Reuters, water levels at China's Three Gorges near maximum after flooding rains. Next, courtesy of the South China Morning Post, China food security, country faces grain supply gap of 130 million tons by 2025. We also have some new photos courtesy of CGTN and the People's Daily, and some new footage in today's video. Let's hop into it. And a brief caveat before today's video. While researching for these reports, I come across information from various sources. Just because I decide to include a piece of information doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with it. I like to let you decide for yourself. Moving on. And a quick look at the status of the water level at the Three Gorges Dam before we get started. Yesterday, the water level was at 163.97 meters. Today, it sits at 166.96 meters. Yesterday's outflow was noted at 48,600 cubic meters per second. Today, it stands at 48,200 cubic meters per second. The inflow is not noted today, and it is worth noting that these numbers are released by the CCP. And this is courtesy of CBSNews.com. Thousands evacuated as floods threaten a massive dam and a treasured Buddha in China. Heavy rainfall has swelled China's Yangtze River, threatening UNESCO World Heritage Sites and forcing officials to reassure nervous citizens that the world's largest hydroelectric dam isn't about to breach. The Three Gorges Dam and the reservoir it holds back saw the highest flood levels since it was finished in 2003, with an inflow peaking Thursday at almost 99,000 cubic yards of water per second for 9 hours. The upper reaches of the Yangtze have been swollen by what the National Ministry for Water Resources said was the worst flooding since 1981. About 100,000 people in Sichuan along the upper Yangtze's banks were evacuated this week as the province activated its highest level flood control response for the first time on record. While the threat to the 1.4-mile-long dam was serious, the Three Gorges Corporation said the reservoir had prepared for the inundation by coordinating with other dams upstream to slow the flow. It's the monsoon season across much of Asia, but rainfall totals this year have broken records across China. Still, experts have sounded confident about the Three Gorges Dam's ability to handle the deluge. Zhang Boting, Deputy Secretary General at the China Society for Hydropower Engineering, said this year's rainfall could exceed that seen in 1998, when China was hammered by deadly flooding, but these days we are better at controlling it with the Three Gorges project. Without it, the flood situation this year would be worse than 1998, he told CBS News in a phone interview. The Three Gorges Dam has been doing a great job. We should understand that fully taming the flow of any river, the Yangtze River included, is simply beyond the realm of engineering. Zhang blames unfinished reservoir projects upriver for the severe flooding in Sichuan and the area around the city of Chongqing. It would be ideal if these projects can finish soon, and together with them, the Three Gorges Dam would work much better to control the floods, he said, adding that it would likely be at least a decade before that happens. It won't get worse from here, he said. And the article goes on to repeat the same numbers that we've had for over a week. So far, this year's floods have been blamed for 219 deaths and the evacuation of 4 million people, according to figures released last week by the Ministry of Emergency Management. And if you've been following our daily updates, you've seen what this next section is talking about: washing Buddha's feet. The flooding was also threatening the Lashan Giant Buddha, a 1,200-year-old UNESCO World Heritage Site. The 233-foot tall stone statue is carved into a cliff in Lashan Mountain overlooking 3 converging rivers. An ancient proverb goes, "Giant Buddha wants to wash his feet. Lashan City can't fall asleep." In other words, if the water goes over Buddha's feet, the city of Lashan will be flooded. The floodwaters rose over Buddha's toes for the first time since 1949 this week, according to the Lashan Buddha Scenic Spot Management Bureau. The Bureau said Thursday that the floodwater had dropped back below the statue's feet. but that they still needed to assess flood damage before it could be reopened to tourists. And this is courtesy of Reuters. Water levels at China's Three Gorges near maximum after flooding rains. Water levels at China's giant Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River are inching closer to their maximum after torrential rains raised inflows to a record high, official data showed on Friday. With 75,000 cubic meters per second of water flowing in from the Yangtze River on Thursday, the reservoir's depths reached 165.6 meters by Friday morning, up more than 2 meters overnight and almost 20 meters higher than the official warning level. The maximum design depth of China's largest reservoir is 175 meters. Authorities raised the discharge volume to a record 48,800 cubic meters per second on Thursday to try to lower the water levels, and they might have to increase it again to avoid the possibility of a dangerous overflow. They will do everything they can to prevent the dam from overtopping, said Desiree Tolos, a professor at Oregon State University who studies the Three Gorges project. An overtopping dam is a worst-case scenario because it produces significant damage and can lead to the entire thing collapsing. Rainfall in the Yangtze Basin has been well over double the seasonal average this year. The floods have caused nearly 180 billion yuan, that's 26 billion US dollars, in economic damages by last week, and 63 million people have been affected. The Three Gorges project, completed in 2012, was designed not to only generate power, but also to tame the fierce Yangtze, the cause of many devastating floods throughout China's history. Thank you for watching this video. If you're finding it informative, please consider giving the channel a subscribe. And our last article is a follow-up on the status of China's food security from last week's reports. Courtesy of the South China Morning Post, China food security country faces grain supply gap of 130 million tons by 2025. And the subheadings say China is expected to face a grain supply gap of about 130 million tons by the end of 2025, according to the China Academy of Social Sciences. And it also says China's looming supply shortage is a result of the increasing urbanization and an aging workforce. China will face a domestic grain supply gap of about 130 million tons by the end of 2025, pointing to growing reliance on imports to feed the world's most populous country, according to a new report from a government think tank. The forecast, which was released on Monday, comes amid heightened concern about food security in China, which has been ignited by anecdotal reports of grain shortages and calls by President Xi Jinping to cut back on food waste. China's domestic supply of three staple grains, wheat, rice, and corn, is expected to fall short of demand by 25 million tons by the end of 2025, meaning there will be a rising dependence on imports, the Rural Development Institute at the China Academy of Social Sciences found. While it noted China had established a national grain security system and that overall supply was sufficient at the moment, it said there are also problems of structural imbalance between supply and demand. China's imports of grains have started to grow. Even as the government reports bumper harvest, it imported a total of 74.51 million tons of grain in the first 7 months of this year, up 22.7% from a year ago, according to the Chinese customs data. The report did not touch on China's agricultural purchasing commitments under the Phase 1 trade deal with the United States, but its conclusions have offered some explanation for China's frenzied purchase of U.S. farm products in recent months. And our last piece of information for the day is a series of photos released by CGTN and the People's Daily. And I think that's a good place to wrap up today's video. I hope that you found it informative, and check back soon for more content.